thank you for staying with us on TMI. I'd like to welcome our panelists for our discussion, which of course is focusing on the key issues that will shape Edo 2020, beginning with intra-party democracy and of course process of emergence of candidates to inter-party defections. That's already coming up strong. Looks like we're going to see more of that in the days ahead. And then of course we'll look at the issue of political education on the part of the electorate. These and lots more you should expect on our discussions today. Let me welcome our panelist, the erudite Sir Adams Aliyu is a public affairs commentator and a constitutional lawyer and notary public. Sir Adams Aliyu, many thanks for joining us on the program.
Good morning. Thank you, viewers.
We also have with us Christopher Ojekere. Christopher is a program officer with Foundation for Good Governance and Social Change. He's also a public affairs commentator. Chris, many thanks for joining us.
Thank you, sir.
We have with us Pius Alile, the founder of Pius Alile Coalition Initiative, a grassroots mobilization initiative. Is also a politician and a public affairs commentator and a social worker. Many thanks for joining us.
Good morning. Good morning.
Okay, let's begin from the business. Chris, let me start off with you because you're closest to me now.
All right.
Yeah, Edo 2020 is gathering steam, gathering momentum. That's always the case for a penultimate year before an election. But today, we just want to x-ray some of the issues that will shape the outcome of the 2020 election. Let's begin with a major thorny one, which is the issue of intra-party democracy and the process of emergence of party candidates. What are your thoughts? Are there signs of how that is going to turn out ultimately?
One would begin by wondering why Honorable Ize Iyamu, who happens to be more or less an institution in a party like the PDP, would few months to the party's primary decide to move with all his followers and supporters into the APC to begin, as it were, new political horse trading, new political networking, and all of that. What that tells any reasonable and sane person is that all couldn't be well within the PDP. Issues that relate to party having wranglings and having squabbles within themselves all relate to intra-party democracy. Because party membership is a matter of interest and pursuits of interest. Where you find interest conflicting for whatever reasons is where you now find leaders of such nature within the party unable to stay together again to consolidate the party towards an impending election against what was supposed to be another party that had its own internal problem that have become very public concerns. So the truth of the matter is that one great failure of our political parties is the absence of intra-party democracy. There is always the tendency by a few members within the party who want to lord it over every other person. There's always the tendency to find ways to skew party policies, party shenanigans towards certain persons and towards certain candidates. And all of these begin to lead to problems within the party. So that we don't have in Nigeria, as it were, what you may refer to solid political structures called political parties that can offer platforms for career politicians and for developmental-minded politicians to build their political career on and then have what you may refer to as legacies. What you have is just disjointed assemblage of people, and that's why people say the political parties are more or less political platforms. They're just platforms where people want to realize their political ambitions. And the reason for that is because you don't have internal party democracy. What we want to see are solid parties with solid structures that have templates and plans on which they run. So that if you are joining that party, you can begin to mark off your career points within the party, and you're able to tell where you are going to go within this party in the pursuit of your political interests. We don't have that today.
All right. Sir Adam Salih, let me get your perspectives on this. Intra-party democracy, process of emergence of candidate has always been a thorny one, particularly at moments like this when the political party starts having their primaries. What are your thoughts? Are there signs, are there indicators of a likelihood of wranglings and all of such issues within the parties as we build up to 2020?
Well, I differ a little from my co-contributor here because the issue is a constitutional one. I'm a constitutional lawyer. The provision in the Constitution, you talk of governorship election of next year, Section 177 provides that 177 sub 3, that to contest election to be a governor, you must belong to a political party and you must be fielded by that party. Ipso facto, there is no room for independent candidates. And if you fact on the day of election, the ballot paper will only show the symbol of political parties. There's no name there. There's no, only the symbol of the party. So his party is supreme, a political parliament, a democracy. Then he highlighted why he was surprised that a person like Pastor Ize-Iyamu will go to a new party after to where. Well, to defect, etymologically, as a noun, defect means a fault. There's a fault is something you say it is defective. Politically, it means leaving one party to another. That is defection. In the local parlance, they call it decamping. And other people will say to cross carpets. What is that what they call? And if you come to it, the Constitution, fundamental human rights, right from section 33 to 46, 14 sections, they guarantee fundamental human rights. To be specific for the avoidance of doubts and ease of reference, section 40 specifies that anybody is free to join any assembly or association, form political party, or join political party for his own personal benefits. I'm quoting, not verbatim et literatim anyway, section 40. You are free to associate with any party for your own personal benefits. Our former Vice President, Atiku Abubakar, he decamped in 2006 to prepare for the 2007 election. 2013, he decamped again. When Bukola Saraki was in the 8th Senate, he decamped. It's not new if people are changing preliminary to election. When Ojukwu came from exile in 83, he moved, he was supposed to be the NPP, he moved to MPN. And along the line 203, he moved to APGA. So that is how it is. So anybody who changes party has the right by section 40 to agglomerate and gravitate to a political party for his own personal interest. There should be no value about it. There is freedom of association and freedom of movement.
Okay. All right. I'm just trying to place Sir Adam Salih now in the conversation because you said initially that you differed a little bit from some of the people.
He was wondering why someone
would move. So you are saying that this has been part of
there's a plethora of cases, instances, continual guarantees.
All right. So let me come to Pius Alile. Yes. What are your thoughts?
Yes. I cannot agree less with what he just said. He has looked at the legality and the constitutionality of defecting, of defection. I completely agree with him.
Okay.
And I
wanted us to focus more for now on the issue of intra-party democracy.
Yes, I'm coming there. Yes. I'm coming there.
Yeah.
Let me start by quoting some of the statements by Pastor Ize-Iyamu when he was about to leave PDP. He said, our primary objective of being in politics is because is an opportunity to represent the people, assess government and bring the dividends, the benefit of government, resources, or otherwise to the people. We cannot be fulfilled if we play politics without being able to achieve this goal. He went ahead to say, we are in politics to assist in stabilizing the government and to bring development to our people. We want to be in the forefront of providing solutions. Okay. And I think that is a very legitimate reason for leaving one political party to another. And I want to also add that moving from one party to another is part of best global practice when it comes to politics. In advanced democracy, this happens all the time. Let me give you a specific example before we move ahead. We all know Shuka Harrison Umuna, an MP of a Nigerian descent in the United Kingdom. In 2019, February, he left. He was an MP under Labour. He left Labour and went to join. He went with another about 6 other MPs to form Change UK. Change UK is another political party. Recently, in June, he left Change UK and moved into the Liberal Democrats. As I speak, he's a member of the Liberal Democrats. So he's allowed. People move for one reason or the other, and he gave a very valid reasons for moving. So that is not a problem at all. Yes, we are going to be having alignment and realignment from one political platform to another, purposely because we have to begin to look at interests, and we have to begin to look at if this particular platform is conducive to actualizing my own ambition. Pastor Isaiah made it very, very clear that he has no personal issue with his party, the PDP, but he said that it is because of the interest of the people, the interest of his followers, the interest of the masses, and that is why he is doing what he's doing.
Are you concerned in any way that this may have far-reaching implications for the process of emergence of candidates and the issue of intra-party democracy that has always been a very stormy issue at moments like this?
Not necessarily. What it does is that it brings not only sanity, it also adds value to the number of candidates that are presented before the people. So if you have a democracy where there are no opposition, where you don't have credible candidates coming forward, then you are giving room for tyranny. You are giving room for despotic behavior. I can come home, I can analyze the position of PDP along with the government of the day in Edo State, where the PDP have not been able to actually PDP is the opposition party that we have, is the most formidable opposition party we have in the state. But if you look at it critically, you discover that they've not been able to play that role very well, because and that was an issue. That was an issue, honestly, even to me personally, that they were not playing their opposition.
Okay, let's stay on course.
But in terms of emerging, it brings sanity. You get good candidates. You get people who are credible. You get people. Yes, it might bring in a lot of probably rancor in terms of managing this array of credible candidates. Okay. But when you look at it critically, you discover that it is good for the state. Okay. It is good for the country.
Okay. Let me get Chris in here. The ruling party in the state is already crisis-ridden, particularly from this semi-contestation between the forces in Abuja and the forces in the state. Now, this move, do you think it will fill this crisis or it will stabilize the crisis? Let's get that from you.
All right. First of all, I wasn't questioning the legality
or otherwise of people moving or changing parties.
I was questioning the propriety of the regularity and the fluidity and nimbleness with which politicians move within and between parties in Nigeria. But I don't think I should drag that argument.
Absolutely.
Now, to your particular question, what was so attractive about the current APC that will make an institution in another political party that was supposed to be the major opposition to move that institution and its followers into a party that was clearly and is still clearly in disarray? Now, if we are to follow the theory of Honorable Alile, that was supposed to bring in stability because it will help to balance, so to speak.
Power play.
Yes. That is left to be seen in this issue of the APC. I won't be surprised tomorrow if I find the present governor of Edo State, who is a member of the APC, moving from the APC, maybe now to the PDP. If that happens, or a similar thing like that happens, then that has debunked the theory. Yeah, the reality on ground,
Yes.
and I like what he read because I was going to refer to that,
Okay.
is that Pastor Izeyamu was forthright, was clear-sighted about why he moved. He defined it, if I'm to use very few words for it, as personal interest.
Okay.
The personal interest to serve a realization of his political ambition. Every man has the right to that,
Okay.
and it should be respected. So he gave that as the reason for moving, not the reason of going to stabilize APC, as my honorable here put it. The fact of the matter is that he is going there to contest within the APC among other interested parties for the same interest that he has just defined within the APC. How that helps the APC going forward is left to be seen. But the point I'm making is this. A party that is supposed to have been the major opposition party in the state, I would have thought that it was organized enough to be able to produce a candidate within that party to challenge the candidate of the APC. I shouldn't think that the only way the pastor can realize his ambition was to leave his party, which was supposedly another established party. We have thought that in Nigeria we now have two established parties. So what I would have thought was that we are going to have the candidate of PDP challenging the candidate of the APC. It would have made democracy much more better. What I listen to be suggesting is that we are gravitating towards a one-party state, where everybody comes to one party and play there, rather than us having several parties that are strong, or a few parties that are strong, competing among each other and competing against each other within the political space. Are you following me? So I cannot take away from anybody his right to associate. But I'm saying in the ideal, what I would have preferred is to see two powerful political parties or three now producing credible candidates and giving the electorate the opportunity to choose among these parties whose candidates and whose policies would be for the betterment of it.
All right, Sir Adamson, we're looking at the results of the defections, how it's going to impact on the stability of political parties, then the internal democracy of the political parties as it relates to the emergence of candidates. So what are your perspectives?
Well, we have all known, ab initio, that there are no permanent enemies in politics, only permanent interests. And as usual, my co-contributor was saying somebody in his own party now moved to a new party. Pastor Izeyamu, for the avoidance of doubts, the facts are there, was a founding member of FEC. He's not going to a strange land. He's coming home. When ACN was to conglomerate and aggregate ACN, CPC, NPP, ABGA, DPP, he was in the central figure that merged these parties to form APC, a co-founder of APC. And you know other positions he has held. So to say that a stranger is coming has no basis. He's coming back home. That is one. Then for the internal democracy, luckily Edo State is homogeneous. What I mean is that Benin, Insan, Isako, Nwakoko, Edo, we all trace our origin to the kingdom, and we are one. No lord lost. We are even linguistically, culturally, we are all the same. So there's no stranger in this place. And as Sonny Okoswan, old musician in those days, sang that when the time comes, we want to know who owns the land. Who owns the land? So there's no hard feelings, and we say in law, res ipsa loquitur. The facts will speak for themselves. In primaries, as we try to say, in 2015-2016 primary, candidates were up to 10 or 12, you know, Rashman, Odugu, General Yari, etc., Governor Basa, etc. So the more, the merrier.
Okay.
After all, INEC has registered 91 political parties. Even in Kogi election, in this Bayelsa election, there were up to 40 contestants. So no hard feelings. All of us are in the same party, and it's in good faith. No stranger is coming.
So you're saying
anywhere.
that ultimately, when the time comes, we'll know who wants them.
Yeah, very well.
Pastor Lina, yes, the implication, yeah.
Yes, I want to.
Is there any?
Oh yes, this is exactly what we have been saying. I want to quote Pastor Isaiah Yamu because what you said just now wasn't totally correct. Pastor Isaiah Yamu said APC is not a strange place for us.
Yes.
It is home. We are in APC with the best of intention, not to join faction, but to help strengthen the party and give our full allegiance to those in charge, those in authority, and not to undermine the powers that be. We did not join to fight or engage in name calling. Our coming in is to bring stability to politics in Edo, bring development to our people, and bring peace. God is with us. Our people are with us. The days ahead will bring more blessings to our land.
That's what I said. Yeah.
This is what Pastor Isaiah said. I'm just quoting him.
Yeah.
So it is not to join the party to cause confusion.
At all.
He is not joining the party to join faction and exacerbate the already tense situation in APC. That is not why
How possible is
he
that?
is there.
How possible is that, Pius?
That is possible.
No,
It's
how possible? You tell us.
Let me tell you. If you know Pastor Isaiah, he's a man of peace, a man of focus,
a pastor,
a man who fears God, a man who believes in the stability of this state. So it's not a confusionist. Okay. It's not something.
Let's not go that person. It doesn't look like
absolutely.
We started campaign here.
That's a fact.
All right, can I pause you for a moment? Dr. Don Pedro Basaki just joined us. Doc, many thanks for coming on the program.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Yeah, I'm sure you've been following these events as they unfold, and particularly in the build-up to the 2020 election. As is always the case, we have, party chieftains moving from party. In fact, there was one particular one I saw. The person was in PDP, moved from PDP to APC, from APC to PDP, from PDP back to APC. I mean, just the merry-go-round, all right? It's so fluid and so easy for us to move. But I think that is not the focus now. The focus is, what are your thoughts on these movements? And how do you think these movements will shape the issue of intra-party democracy and the process of emergence of candidates, particularly for the APC, against the background that there's been an internal wranglings within the party? Wouldn't this exacerbate the issue, in your opinion?
I will speak first as an interested party, and then I will speak secondly as much as objective as I can be. As an interested party, I find the merry-go-round you just described. You say one person. I mean, it's in the public domain. I'd rather just state it as it is. That Pastor Osagie Ezeyamu was in the PDP, moved to the PDP in 1999, moved to the help form the AC in Edo State. I remember then they used to say AC without compressor, and then the ACN, of which he was the national vice chairman for the South-South, which was no mean position, and as rightly said by my daddy, he said that he was actually one of those who engineered the coalition that formed the APC, and then he moved in 2014, I think it was May 2014 to be precise, to the PDP and became their flag bearer in the 2016 election, and I think I was one of his major supporters then. Yeah. Then in a few weeks ago, just a couple of weeks ago, he's moved back to the APC. I believe that, like Sado said at the beginning, I truly believe everybody has a right to associate. There must be freedom of association and freedom of expression. The only thing I found a little disturbing is that Pastor Osagie Ezeyamu is not an ordinary person. So, you know, William Shakespeare said that when paupers die, they are not commercial. He said, but even the heavens themselves, yes, mourn the death of princes. You know, and within the political space in Edo State, Pastor Osagie Ezeyamu has achieved that kind of level. So some of us who used to be close to him, we were a little disturbed. You know, if you look at the reasons for moving, if the reason profiled as per instability in the PDP, that wasn't in the public domain. Let's be frank with ourselves. The kind of instability that seems to pervade the APC did not exist before Pastor Osagie Ezeyamu moved from the APC, from the PDP. In fact, when I saw the first time that they excluded him because he did not reply to these insinuations that were flying about, they excluded him. And I wrote to the chairman and said, why are you excluding him? When you are excluding him, you are actually becoming a precursor for someone that has not said anything. You are finding him guilty for a sin he is yet to commit. That is how I saw it. Then when he moved, I did not feel comfortable. I even wrote an article last week on my perception. But those perceptions are personal.
Absolutely.
So, and those personal perceptions do not at all, in any way, remove the right. Because where does my right start? Where does yours end? It doesn't remove the right of anybody whatsoever, howsoever, to move from one space to the other. Then on the other hand, looking at the APC, I think in the last, since Buhari took over, there has been a seemingly change in the way the APC operates. In 2016 election, I'll make this clear, we were 17 that were running under the banner of the APC. 17. Why in the PDP, there were 4. Okay. If we remember clearly, there was Solomon Edebiri, there was Matthew Iduoyekeme, and Osaro Onaiwu, before Osaro Onaiwu pulled out to APGA, and then Pastor Osagie Ezeyamu. I think that same thing is going to replay itself now. So what we are saying is that we are going to get a final before the finals taking place in the APC primaries. But what I was thinking that we might look at personally is how does this affect the governance dynamics
of the state
in the next 1 year? How does that affect the common man on the street? How does that affect political realignments? And how does that affect ideological divides? Because you've come to find out that all the parties, from the look of things, because parties don't make themselves. Human beings populate the party.
Absolutely.
So when the same set of human beings junket from one party to the other and back again, then you begin to question the veracity of, say, oh, there is an ideological standpoint here. And there's, for me, the whole place is fluid, and the differences in the party is just in the capital letters that represent them. That is how I feel.
Okay. Thank you very much. If you just join us, you're on to This Morning on ITV, Monday's edition with yours sincerely, Sonny Duke Okosun. Today, our major talking point is to look at some of the issues that will shape Edo State governorship election CAM 2020. Of course, it's known for short as Edo 2020. I want to thank panelists, Chris Jekere, Vice Adam Saliu, and Pastor Lile and Don Pedro Obaseki. Okay, he just took the word out of my mouth talking about Don Pedro Obaseki, the last comments that he made. Okay. Now, with all this politicking going on, what is the fate of the common man on the street? That's one. Then secondly, the present governor of the state has been at loggerheads, so to speak, with the national chairman of the party, with the bifurcation that has taken place in the party. How can you distill all of these and tell us your perspective on its impact on governors in the state?
The governor of the state has, for the past few months, as far as I'm concerned, been fully involved in the battle between himself and the national chairman of his party. The governors in the state in the past few months have not recorded to me anything meaningful by way of taking care of the welfare of the people. And I'll give you several examples. When the governor became governor, some of the policies he initiated were, one, he tried to give us a state that has some aesthetic looks that will be an attraction to investors. So the state, and Ring Road especially, was cleared of street urchins, beggars, and all of that. If you live in Benin City and you stop today at any traffic point, you are invaded by hordes of street urchins, wiping your glasses, snatching things from the car if they can do that. They are all over the streets. If you go to Ring Road, you are likely to count more lunatics, madmen, and so on, occupying those places where our poor market women were driven out from because they said they had constituted nuisance to traffic. But they are occupied today by madmen and street urchins. That is not to talk about the boys who play right opposite the former ACB bank there. What do you call it? The more you look, the less you see. With policemen, and I have noticed, I have seen, driving around there, hanging around the corner, watch them for a while, and drive away again. How are investors going to come to a state with this kind of environmental hazards? Now, that is one. We complained endlessly that during the rains, Edo became a standstill state once it rains, because all you needed to do was to stay at the point where the rain met you and wait for about 2 hours when the rain would have stopped, and then the water would have found some passages. You couldn't move. So how is governance taking place when Edo is submerged under erosion? Even the roads that were said to be tarred are all washing away.
Exactly.
Are you following me? So the point is that the things that should have been the primary focus of government in the past few months have been diverted. All we read in the papers is whether Jesua was accepted into the NEC meeting of APC, or whether it was Mose that was accepted into the NEC meeting, whether the Speaker Okiye was invited to Speaker's conference with Buhari, or whether he wasn't invited. This has become all the minders of the government, especially Robinson Crusoe-Osagi. Go and read this write-off for the past 3 months. It is either replying to John Mayaki on one allegation or the other, and other. So that's what is in government for the past 3 months. Now, so there can be no understating how this kind of issues take away focus. For I will still have another 1 year to go. When I was here the last time in the studio, I did tell you that it was going to get messier. And that was before Jesua was purportedly removed. We are seeing what we have. Yes.
Prophet of
yes. No, we have to correct analyzing the situation.
Okay.
Yes. So,
okay.
so it cannot be overemphasized how this can divert attention away from proper government.
Okay. Let me get
yes.
Sir Adam Saliu in here.
Well, I will always look at it from a constitutional point of view, that the position of governor, very big position. The governor, the Constitution gives from section 176 to section 196 all about governor. The chief executive can appoint commissioner, etc., etc. And for the governorship election, that takes us to 178, section 178, which provides that the election has to hold earliest 60 days to the tenure expiration of the incumbent, or latest 30 days. If so facto, that election cannot come earlier than September of 2020, going by section 178 sub 2, which provides for 60 days before the election. But being a long distance race, it's not a sprint event. You have to come in. I'm already seeing billboard and campaign slogans all over the place. It is healthy and good, because the more the merrier. Once, you cannot choose out of nothing. So all what you are seeing, they are preliminary events which is getting people involved. My co-contributor said that Peter will talk, Paul will reply. These are expected. But the oneness is that they are all within the same party. That's why I'm happy. We are all members
Are these not distracting governance, Vice Chancellor?
Okay, if
Yes,
you
it's
say,
not a distraction
yeah,
to governance.
now instead of governance,
Yes.
you are now fully involved in politics.
Politics.
If anybody calls, you reply and all that. Well, it could, but it ought not to be. Governance is different. Party politics is different. They run pari passu, and the chief executive, encapsulated in section 176 to 196, has all the powers to look for the welfare of the people. And Edo State is one single constituency.
Okay. Passion, Alile, yes.
Oh yes, let me. I'm happy to be sitting very close to Dr. Don Pedro Obaseki, and I have been one of his secret admirers, especially when he was contesting in APC.
Yes.
When he was in APC, I remember him talking. He came to London to address some people. I was watching you on Facebook, and everything he was saying, I quite admire his tenacity at that time. He was an institution at that time as well. Because even up to today, and when he didn't get the ticket, he also decamped from APC to PDP and worked against his brother.
I don't want to get personal.
No, it's not personal.
It sounds personal.
No, it's not personal. It's not personal. It's in public domain. I'm not making up anything.
I know, but
and the reason why I'm saying this,
as a focus.
No. The reason why I'm saying this is because let us also bring it into perspective to what he said concerning Pastor Ize Yamu, who is also an institution and who find it necessary at this time to also move from PDP into APC. I do not see much of the different scenario here because both of them are institutions of the
question
state.
that I asked,
Okay, now let's
all this will affect
yes. Let me address that. I said it last time when I was here that Governor Obaseki caused all these problems for himself. You need to have the capacity as a governor to manage issues around governance and issues around political party. Honestly speaking, his inexperience in party politics affected him. And that is a fact. There is no doubt about that. When you've never played party politics, you've never been secretary of a ward, you've never been a councillor, you've never associated with the political class. Yes, if my name is mentioned now, I know that somebody in Ovia Northeast will know me because we've been playing politics for a very long time. So that affected him.
Is that what you need to be?
You need certain level of political capital. Honestly speaking, you need certain level of. I'm not saying you should have all the experience in the world, but you need certain level of political experience to be able to manage the party as well as the state, relate with the party leadership, to be able to govern. Saying that, governance is for those elected, party politics is for politicians. You will discover, I think you should discover now that is not totally true. You know, there are ways you marry both together, you consult, you relate, and you carry them along in the scheme of things. It is not about sharing money at all. It is about relating. I think he lacked that interpersonal skills, and that has affected him. And now it has boomerang. That is why he's having all this problem. You see, some of the issues, as at the time he's supposed to be concentrating on governance, he's being distracted. Not because the politicians that are saying that they don't want him, not that they really wanted to do that. It was because some of them were pushed on the wall. This is politics. And as a matter of fact, even there was a time I was saying that you should reach out on time. You can still nip this. You can still stop this. Reach out on time. But some people were saying you should fight on. I don't understand it. Fight on. You're fighting your party people. Fighting your party people is like fighting against your family. Your party people are your political family. You cannot fight against them. So people that were saying, oh, yeah, fight on. Even some people in the opposition, PDP, supporting him and telling him, fight on. They were basically,
Were you there when that show was started? Let's not mix spirits and
this is our political,
they're not there. So stay on course, yes.
No, let us look at it.
Yes.
This crisis started from the very beginning of his government. And that is why these issues are, that is why these issues are out there. So, and yes, it affects government. It has actually affected him. He has completely strayed how it has affected his government. And there is no doubt about that, the issues that we are having around him as a result of maybe he didn't perform or he performed here, all these arguments here and there. I would have thought that by now, all the organs of APC in Edo State would have said, we have endorsed you for second tenure, so that there will be stability in government, so that they can continue to focus. But that is not happening. If you see one endorsing him there, another one will be coming, no, we are not endorsed, because the party is not united. You see, they've not agreed that he should get second tenure. You see, these are the fundamental issues that he created. And as a result of, probably didn't appoint a very competent political advisors, because, of course, yes, you might not have all the experience, but this is government. You should have people who will advise you. And you should also be ready to listen to these people. It will continue to affect his government. Honestly speaking, till election day, it will continue to affect, except there is stability in his in the party.
Okay.
That is my position.
Don Pedro, yes.
I'm happy that, you see, like I said at the beginning, let me use the Obasanjo phrase, because I'm involved. I want to agree to a very large extent that maybe some perceived lack of dexterity in the political space might have affected Governor Godwin Obaseki at the beginning. Because I personally, there was no love lost between me and my elder brother at that time. But I'm not an idiot. So when I look at and I weigh the terms of performance, his ideas, and mine I had prior to my running, and I find a lot of coalition, it will just be silly for me to keep hitting just for the sake of being, of hitting up the politics. So I decided to support it. Now, going forward, I feel that the luck Edo people have here is the fact that this fight came a lot much early.
Yeah. Exactly.
I do not believe at all that there will be no reconciliation. Anybody who thinks that, let me speak Benin, Okwemose, there is absolutely nothing beautiful in war.
At all.
Because no matter how bloody that war may be, particularly when you have more or less a war of attrition, it must end on a negotiating table. And like our learned senior colleague said earlier, governance and politics in a party, in a multi-party democracy, runs pari passu. They are cybernetic. One flows into the other. They are actually one and same in a lot of ways. I feel that this learning curve for the governor is, it may be painful, but he is coming out at the end of the day a much better, a much enriched person in terms of experientials. Right now, if you notice, there is an emergency NEC meeting while he is discussing the industrial hub thing in China. If it was the old Godwin, he will let them deal with their stuff. I will deal with this one. But I was shocked when I saw him there on that day. In fact, I was called by members, by persons in the opposing camp to say, you see your governor, today now Thursday night, tomorrow we are saying China. So when I saw him on television sitting right in the middle, I said, oh my God. You know, I think also that the persons within the party who are so aggrieved are beginning from the pronouncement of Mr. President, although I've read 27 versions of a very simple line. Everybody's spinning it to their own selective advantage. But some of us are not stupid. The man said it in very simple terms. The video is available.
Yeah.
And which is clear that he is on the side of reconciliation, irrespective of whether you are the party chairman, or a national chairman, or whether you are the sitting governor. So, and I think that if it is well harnessed by those who organize and strategize on behalf of the governor, and also on behalf of the APC national chairman, that the only way, the only veritable way to go is reconciliation. And then the party itself, they are a very small microcosm. When you place them against the larger public. But this is a multi-party democracy. And the party gives the ticket. And it is the party's flag you must fly. So, and that calls for a Dante.
Okay.
It calls for a cessation of, how do you call it, ceasefire, amongst all major players. And I will use this opportunity, don't be offended, Sonny Duke. You are doing a public service. For the sake of all Edo people, it is imperative on Governor Obaseki and former Governor Adams Oshiomhole to bury the hatchet and move this state forward.
Okay.
It is the only veritable thing to do.
Yeah, now, history has a way of repeating itself. I mean, it's replete with instances where things like this play out. Not too long ago, the story of a certain governor, Akinwumi Ambode of Lagos State, and his benefactor, Asiwaju himself, brewed up like this. And then at some stage, there were stories around the fact that, oh, the presidency is supporting the governor against the Asiwaju, and that on that plank, the presidency will prevail on Bola Ahmed Tinubu to ensure that Ambode comes out successful to get a second-term ticket, against the background that, for crying out loud, the man has worked tirelessly. He has redefined governance. He has made the people smile. Just a moment. These were the analysis that were coming forth. And people actually believe that with all the supposed presidency backup, this man is going to come out successful in his quest to get a second ticket. That never happened. People talk, because now Dr. Pedro is talking about reconciliation. We are seeing movement, people moving from one party to another. They say when you see someone dancing on the stage, someone's dancing on the stage, there's a drummer somewhere beating the drums. I don't know what your thoughts are.
The limitation of public domain analysis is that you don't have the liberty to share all the grapevines. You don't have the liberty to share all the grapevines. The truth of the matter is that, well, I don't want to keep repeating what they are saying. It's a fight that shouldn't have started. And after that passionate appeal by Don Pedro, we shouldn't go back to begin to flog their horse. I think going forward, I think I would also want to advise the governor. It's still not too late. You see, I have always thought that this was an ego war. That was my own personal opinion. Because when two people are fighting, an intelligent man wants to know what the issues are. I was never able to pick what the issues were, so I thought this must be an ego clash. There's an aura clash here. You know, it could be a supremacy battle or whatever it was. So I think with the events, all the events surrounding it so far, there can be a reapproachment, you know, towards reconciliation. But one thing I find in this kind of war, your reconciliation is more often better if it is done between the parties on a personal level than third party intervening. The Ambode case you cited, Ambode was probably relying on third party intervention. I mean, Ambode probably would have been able to solve that problem himself. Or maybe before he realized that the problem was there, it was too late for him to have been able to solve it. But I don't think that was the same case with Edo's. I think in Edo State, there are rooms, there are doors still open, and there are moves that could be made, and then we'd have a reconciliation. As he gave us that beautiful parable, no war is beautiful. Yeah, I think so. That's what.
All right, Adamson.
Well, I find it odd for people to assume that in a highly competitive event like this, somebody could be returned unopposed. The Constitution does not provide for that. That even if there is one candidate, the Constitution says people must take you up to vote yes or no, and you are expected to have a certain percentage. The point I am making is that when the time comes, there will be primaries, and the primaries will be the deciding factor. The Ambode case you cited, Governor Ambode, he contested the primaries.
He did.
Vote popularly, vote.
He knew
that would be he contested the primary. It will be speculative, prejudicial presumptive, preemptive to forecast as an astrologer a result what has ever happened. So as many people that are ambitious, that are bona fide qualified, they should be allowed to contest. Ambode contested that primary.
Yes.
And he's a sitting governor.
Yes.
Then rest ipsa. The results
He lost.
yeah, all of them cannot win.
That he contested and he lost.
But the way
That was
people
why
were
he feared-
saying
that was why he
is
feared
that
the
he should
most.
have been returned or post, he should sit at home, INEC will announce his name,
Yes.
that he is giving third term or second term.
Yes.
That is speculative,
Okay.
prejudicial, and preemptive.
And
So
presumptuous.
anybody who is ambitious, take form and contest.
All right. Yes, Pius. Yes.
You see, Bola Asiwaju Tinubu made it very clear that Governor Ambode was a good governor, but a bad party man, unquote. That is what he said.
He contested.
You cannot be a good governor and not be a good party man. And you see, these are fundamental issues. The case is similar to Edo, very, very similar, honestly speaking, where the party people are not happy. That is applicable to Governor Ambode. So these are fundamental. I am very happy, honestly speaking. I want to talk to you on a personal level now. I am happy that a formidable person like Pastor Osage Izeyam is moving into APC, because we have to check certain excesses. Honestly speaking, we have to check certain. I like opposition. I like competitiveness, and that should take place in APC. Yes, there should be primaries, but let's have formidable personalities, formidable political characters competing to get the ticket. There is no. I agree with our lawyer here that said that there is no constitutional provision for saying that it is my right. It's not negotiable. You can't use that word in a democracy. It's not a military era. You can't use that word. Yes, I am happy that strong political character like Pastor Osage Izeyam is coming into APC. Let's face the primaries and let's see who gets the ticket. That is my position on this matter.
All right.
That's my position on
Yes,
this matter.
that's on Pedro.
I will take both of them on.
Yes, please do. Please
Let
do.
me-
Because I'm going to set another example.
Let me start.
I'm going to set another example.
Let me start with
Yes, yes.
Number one, in spite of the primaries, unquote, that took place in Lagos, I mean, as a lawyer, you won't discountenance the fact that it will be most unlikely for the total number of votes in the primaries to be 2.3 million above the total number of votes in the general election. So that was what happened in Lagos.
Okay.
Number two, Ambode did not have the room to ebb. And Ambode, he made, Kingsley mentioned something at the beginning, that there are certain things that happen that you cannot
in the grapevine.
in
You
the
can't
grapevine, that you
divulge,
cannot
yeah.
divulge in the public
Yes,
domain.
yes.
But let me put it on call for those who know. Ambode could not retrieve that phone call. Ambode lost the election, his seat, to a phone call that he made that he forgot to cut. When we finished, ask me why. I was executive consultant to Fashola for 8 years.
Okay.
And I am an internal person in the APC in Lagos. So I know what I'm talking about.
Which side?
That he made a phone call. There is no precedent that would have asked Bola Tinubu not to agree. Not to agree to give that man a second term ticket. I'm being frank with you.
Okay.
That phone call, unfortunately for him, was recorded by the old man's Android phone. So when you go to meet him, he plays the phone call for you. And you leave with your jaw. That was what. Then in the second week, he made that phone call on the 2nd of August, 2018. I know what I'm talking about. And the primaries was just 6 weeks away. There is no abracadabra that Akinwumi Ambode would have played that would have changed. Then on the other hand, the entire party infrastructure in the state was totally against Ambode. That is not the same thing with Edo State. You can say some of them are split. The chairman is here, the other one is there. You get my point? So Governor Obaseki has a lot more negotiating and playing power. As for the primaries, I want to say this clearly. Any competition that is skewed or manipulated actually cause to question the veracity of the democracy.
Oh, yes.
There must be a primary. Like Uncle has said earlier, even if it is a one candidate, Mr. President was a one candidate in the primary, in his party primaries. And also the same results also happened there, where the total number of votes he got as an APC member was higher than the total number of votes in the national election. Go and check the figures. So what we are scared of, me as an onlooker, now I'm no longer really an onlooker. My family is involved. My family was also involved before. Osage is also family. You get my point? But this time, I hope that we are able to safeguard democracy by making sure that the proper things are done. I don't agree that there was no real substance in the fight.
Okay.
It may appear to be sharing money, not sharing money, but let us look at it systemically.
Okay.
The governor, from the very first month he was sworn in, had started to dismantle the modus operandi of the government before it, which was based, I keep saying it on this program, it was like a motor park democracy, where the worst of us were legislating and lording it over the rest of us. He tried to take that out, and he said that when he came, all the areas in Edo State, major areas in Edo State, were cleaned up. That was a fight. The second one is the personality stuff. I think a lot of persons lashed in on that, either to build their own selfish political capital at the expense of the totality of Edo citizens. But I think with the events that have been panning out in the last few weeks, or particularly in the last 2 weeks, since the multiple and serious suspensions, it will, no matter how crazy that person is, no matter how hard-hearted, they must begin to shift grounds.
Okay.
They must shift grounds so as to accommodate the yearnings and aspirations of the commonwealth of Edo people. We won't let anybody, for the sake of personal fights, mortgage away our collective patrimony.
All right, so let me come to you, Christian.
I'm not happy you are not talking about those people who are still sitting in Abuja, when we don't vote for them to stay.
Yes. It's also part of it's also part of the issue. It's also part of the issue.
They should come back home.
Chris, I just want to find out from you, what are your thoughts on the possibility of reconciliation before the primaries, before the election proper, in this build-up? What are the possibilities? Because just 2 weeks ago, last week here, 2 weeks ago really, it was Bayelsa and Kogi State. We know what played out in Bayelsa State. Today I read in the papers, some of the stakeholders are saying that former President Goodluck Jonathan should be sanctioned for the role he played in that election. What are your thoughts?
I'm a pragmatist. As I said earlier, the fight shouldn't have started. The costs of a fight is that you are not able to predict the dimensions of that fight. There have been too many dimensions involved in this fight that while we hope optimistically that there will be reconciliation, my truth in my heart is that there will be no reconciliation. There will be no reconciliation because other interests have set in. And those other interests that have set in are entrenched interests. They are not light interests. Now, time had been given for reconciliation before these other interests set in. Advantage was not taken of those lapses, of those windows. So there cannot be real reconciliation. There are too many things involved. You have situations where you have political treachery, where you might even have family treachery, where you have, proteges fighting against, So there's too much involved now for us to be able to backpedal and say, and then if you are going to have reconciliation, there are certain issues. He just referred to a group of people that are over there. That's another strong issue involved in the matter. Whether you like it or not, the institution, Captain Zayamu, does not make moves just because for the fun of it. He's making moves after he has done some consultation. Those are interests. Then you have the interest of the deputy governor and his godfather, and then so many things that have happened even way back home. Those are interests. So you really cannot have reconciliation. We are hoping for that because that's what we hope. But as a pragmatist, I look at it clearly. I don't see much optimism.
Me, I'm an optimist.
Yes, are you optimistic of the reconciliation?
Well, I radiate on the same frequency with you. But reconciliation is very, very unrealistic. You cited the case of Jonathan.
Yes.
This is Jonathan, an institution. Deputy governor, governor. Vice president, president. Then a group of people will sit in one corner. They say they want to suspend him. He's no more a PDP member and all that. So I find it ridiculous. So when everybody now assumes power that does not belong to it, so I'm sure the constitution is very blatant because it is the people who will decide. Exactly. And in a democracy, the ballot box, the ballot paper is the deciding factor. Is the illicit passage.
Well, before the ballot paper decides, the party will decide. The people in the party will decide.
You are now talking of party.
Yes.
Who is the party now?
The people.
There are so many chairmen. I will sack Peter.
Exactly.
Peter will sack me.
Exactly.
So we don't even know which is which. The principal will suspend the students. The student will suspend the principal. So,
all right,
very interesting.
You see, when you talk about reconciliation in politics, you are talking about dialogue. Then you are talking about making compromises.
Yes.
You see, and when you are talking about making compromises, that dialogue becomes complex and it becomes difficult. And I think that is the issue here. Are all the warring parties, are they ready to make compromises? You see, one of the things I like about PDP, in 1999 when I was a councillor, they have a crisis management strategy, very strong, across board. What they do is they make compromise. If you have factions like this, they'll say, okay, you bring chairman, you bring vice, you bring secretary. That is how they very, very strong, and it was very effective.
But there will be hierarchy.
Oh, and the hierarchy is there. That is what they do. And that is how they've been able, that was how they were able to manage the government, manage the party for 16 years. You understand? But in APC, it's not like that at all. It's winners take all. Okay. It's winners take all. If you tell the governor now, okay, we'll give you second tenure, but your deputy must come from this faction. That will not happen. Philip Shaibu will say, no way. You see the issues here. So when you are talking about reconciliation, you are talking about making compromises. So I do not see these parties.
Do you see reconciliation?
No. They are not ready to make compromises. They are not ready to make compromises.
You are the apostle of reconciliation. In fact, you made a passionate appeal to all the warring factions to bury their swords and to see their swords and then of course reconcile.
You see, the truth of the matter is, for me to go with the float psalm and the jet psalm doesn't make me a visionary. Shakespeare said, sorry, I quote Shakespeare, I'm a literature student. Okay. He said, there is no art yet to tell the man
in the face.
In the face. All these things we are saying are all hallmarks of diplomacy. For diplomacy to win, there must be problem. I feel, when I heard Pastor Ezeamu was going to move to the APC, when I first heard it in the grapevine, my first reaction was that he may move to the APC to support government. You may wonder why I said that. In August, or so, July or thereabout, I saw Pastor Ezeamu and the governor together. It's very unusual in an APC PDP setup. Seeing them dance together, frolic together in his party. I also already knew, as someone who had my ears to the ground, that the PDP were not comfortable, or were beginning to engineer certain wuruwuru that may put Mr. Ezeamu at a disadvantage. By then, I had not seen the blossoming of this swearing in turning into a conflagration. So I truly believe that those who constructed the crisis are also in position to construct the peace. The reason is, in the fallout at the end, they just might be the collateral. They might just be the collateral damage going forward.
Okay.
So for all of them,
Yeah.
it is to their own selective and corporate interest for them to settle.
Okay, that's our tailored point on the conversation on the show today, TMI. Of course, focus has been on the key issues that will shape Edo 2020, intra-party democracy, process of emergence of candidates, and then of course the issue of inter-party defection. How all of this is affecting the ordinary man on the street in terms of governance. Well, as they say, in politics, no permanent enemies. All that is permanent is permanent interest. And how all of this will play out, ultimately, only time will tell. Gentlemen, I want to thank you for coming on the program. We'll take a short break. We'll be back with one of our sponsors on our forthcoming event. We'll be with you in a moment.